Kelly, thank you very much. And I want to thank everybody who registered and attended this webinar today. Thanks for that, because you're taking your valuable time. We're going to make it a worthwhile, because most of the webinar will be showing the app. So it'll be live, working against JDE, working against Amazon Business on the punch-out portion. I'll go through some slides just to position KRise as a company. First, I want to introduce, though, that was Kelly from marketing just a second ago, and Ben is going to be doing the demo. Ben, you're there, right?
Yep, I'm here. Hello, everyone.
Okay, great. And then, like I said, I'm going to go through the slides. Please ask your questions in the chat. Kelly can make a determination whether we should pause and answer at that point or at the end of the session. So with first off, KRise, we've been around for 18 years. We're not a Java or .NET or any type of programming language software developer. We created a no-code platform well before it became real popular, and back in 2005. So I always draw an analogy similar to JD Edwards apps, which is all tied to JDE tools. We're kind of the same way. All of our apps, and we have many apps, are directly developed off of our Easy Process platform. So we're a platform-driven company, and we produce pre-built apps across the business landscape. Today, we are focused on PO requisitioning, and that falls under the spend category. We have many other apps. Just a little bit about our platform, and I'm going to be very, very quick with this. If you want to understand our platform or even see a demo of our platform, how we develop, how our customers, many of our customers are using our platform to develop themselves. We can send you the recordings and or schedule meetings. We do have, these are all JDE, so the common denominator is all of our apps have robust JDE integration built in. Our platform comes pre-integrated with JD Edwards. As far as compliance and validations, OVI certification is very detailed, and it's something I suggest to make sure that any software vendor app that you're or platform that you're considering, make sure it's both 32 and 64-bit. There's going to be zero chance of object conflicts that way. We're a payments company, so we're also PCI compliant, and for security controls, we're CPA SOC 2 Type 2 certified. And these are JDE slides. What's a major characteristic of our platform is that we're outside of JDE. We're working against JDE integration with parameterized queries to use data and view data from a transactional perspective. Orchestration APIs, or if you're not on 9.2, or you just want to take an interoperability, that's the JDE XML call object that's automatically enabled in your JDE INI. If you just want to take that approach, we can work with business functions. These are decisions and approaches that we work with you on. And the focus today, what we're showing here is a number of our spend apps. What we're focused on today is the EASYBuyer PO requisitioning app, and Ben's going to do use case scenarios around PUNCHOUT using Amazon Business, stock, non-stock, which is the J-line type. We'll review workflows. In fact, the workflow, that's what I'm going to kind of get into in terms of the robustness. When you're dealing with forms and workflow from a platform perspective, You have to make sure it's robust, easy to use. We need to allow clients to work with it directly themselves. But here's first the feature list. Once again, requisitions. I talked about the inquiries and the reports. We're going to send this slide deck right after the webinar. It'll be sent tomorrow, so I'm not going to go through it in detail. You see user maintenance, the workflow functionality, price bidding functionality, and people understand working with a stock item from a vendor and very much a non-stock, a J-line type. PUNCHOUT, we do like to explain that a little bit more. Ben's going to be showing the demonstration, but I think it's good that, Ben, why don't you overview the steps so people have a sense of what PUNCHOUT is and how it works technically and functionally.
Sure. Yeah. So this diagram applies to Amazon as well as most PUNCHOUT implementations. Essentially, what happens is you'll log into the EASYBuyer portal, and then we'll initiate a PUNCHOUT session. In this case, to Amazon. It's through cXML, so we'll send a request there. They'll send us back a link, which you'll then be forwarded to the Amazon catalog. You'll add everything you need to the cart. You select shipping, payment, everything, and then it will send. It'll use cXML to send that request back to EASYBuyer, and then it'll go through that same workflow as any requisition would go through. And then after that's all approved and ready to go, created in JDE, then it simultaneously will approve the purchase order in Amazon and order those items. Yep. So that's about it.
Okay, thanks, Ben. And I just want to discuss workflow because that's such an important element of any deliverable. And our workflow functionality is very, very robust. The ability to delegate, when such as going on vacation, code delegate, escalate. You have properties, so you can estimate and actually view reports that show what you planned versus the actual. Add watchers. We have some companies using our workflow in a very sophisticated manner, some 9 levels deep, others with parallel workflow processes, say converging at purchasing at the endpoint. Swim lanes is what you're seeing on the left there. In this particular example, it's AP automation. So we're showing swim lanes with the OCR scan and the 3-way with receipt, invoice, two-way invoice, two-way. Ben's going to show that. Statuses, actors, conditions. Our workflow is built into the IDE. So many times when we start a project or edit a project or do a custom project, we start from the workflow because the workflow really explains the overall process, the business process automation that you're looking for in the app. So today, Ben's going to be reviewing the PO requisitioning workflow. We have other workflows tied to the other spend apps that we have, like a buyer supplier portal for PO gets created. You want to manage the PO, change the PO, acknowledge the PO, ship the PO before the receipt process. Master data management tied to, say, the item master components. So workflow is traditionally and has been accomplished through emails. Now these emails, because our platform is a web app and so it's browser agnostic, the emails can be embedded with web services that have like intelligent buttons like approve and deny. So the workflow allows users, it's not necessary to go to the portal. They can do things right and review the status. That's what you're seeing, the workflow history here, right on the email itself. The emails, we do have great responsive design technology built into our platform, so it form factors to the tablets and the various smartphones out there. between Apple iOS and Android. So it form factors everything, the data, the grids, the menu, and it works very, very well. That's what we're showing there. We're deployed in AWS with our platform and the apps. AWS does have a necessary service called SMS text that we're able to utilize. So SMS text is another way of receiving notifications. So it could be a combination. You can say we want the notifications to be enabled from an email perspective and from an SMS text perspective. And there's even a third component for workflow notifications, and that's based on a native app. Now, I just mentioned we're a web app, but we do have a native app framework. Facebook created an open source framework called React Native. That's what we use for enabling people to use their smartphone. The difference between responsive design and a native app is a native app allows you to use the camera functions, like the second slide from the left, scan text. So I could, and I'm using my camera there, and I'm scanning Kathy McDougall in, and on the right-hand side, I'm using the voice to enter in the comment field, approve. So that's, and it's especially important when you're dealing with like OCR or barcoding, any type of scanning functionality, and you want to use your camera. So that's it for the questions. I wanted to keep it about 10 minutes, which I did, and quickly turn it over to Ben. So I'm going to stop share. Ben, go ahead and start the demo.
All right. Okay. Yeah, so before I hop into the actual application, I'm going to go over the workflow at a high level, so you can get an idea of what's going on as I'm submitting these requisitions. So at a high level, each request that comes into this workflow is going to be a new requisition. So we're going to reach this composing status where the requester will fill out the required information. And then we have some actions coming off here. They can save, they can submit for approval, or they can withdraw. And based on certain parameters on the requisition itself, it will eventually go through this budget approval status. And here is where it'll read from an approval routing based on some information in the header. And it will keep on going for more approval until it is fully approved by all the required approvers. And it goes to this post-approval edit status. And this is where procurement will have the final say on that requisition before it goes into JDE to be converted to a purchase order. And this JDE status is dark blue, meaning that it runs on a batch. So every minute, any requisition at the status will be automatically converted to a PO, in this case via a business function. But as Doug explained, we can also integrate using orchestration. Yeah, but after it's created in JDE, it'll go to this waiting for receipt status. And the requester will be notified that it has been created as a purchase order, and we're just waiting on that requester to log that they've received the goods. And then after that, the request will be terminated. There's one extra status up here, this pre-approval edit status, which will be reached in the case when the requisition doesn't have a supplier number filled out, or if there's some unknown pricing on some of the items. That's where it'll go to pre-approval edit and be assigned to procurement to fill out this information and eventually submit to budget approval. And that's the workflow at a high level. I also wanted to go over sort of the customizability of the workflow as well. So at each of these statuses, there are 4 icons. There's an arrival event and complete event. This is logic that runs when a request reaches the status and when a request leaves the status. So this is such as maybe in the arrival event, we would have some notifications sent out to approvers in the budget approval status, and then the complete event would handle any actions by the requester or the approver. There are also actions and conditions. So this defines what a user can perform at the status. So in this case, the requester can save, submit, or withdraw the requisition. And then the conditions are the branches coming out. So there's some that are straightforward. If we save or withdraw, there's just a save and withdraw condition here. But if they submit, there may be some things that would send it to pre-approval edit, or maybe there's no approval needed, or maybe it'll just go for regular approval. So that's where you would define those. And lastly, that last icon is actors. And this defines who can perform an action at a request at the status. In this case, the composing status only takes the original requester of the requisition. And this means that only they can act on the requisition at this status. You can also assign it to specific users. You can assign it to different roles or groups in the app. You can also have it based on some user property, such as address number. Yeah, that's essentially the workflow. Lastly, I wanted to go over to the right. When I highlight any of these statuses, there's a couple properties I want to go over, such as escalation. So you can enable escalation, and based on this time, you can escalate the request. Let's say we're waiting on approver to approve, and it's been 48 hours. We want to send out a reminder email. This is how you would do that, is by escalating the request. And then you can also define expected completion time. And this is how you would compare the expected completion time versus how long these approvers are actually taking to approve these requests. As an example there. But with that being said, I'll go ahead and log into the application here. So I'm going to log in as Vanessa Hudson, who is a procurement user. When we log in, we're greeted with this menu here. We have this profile menu, which deals with some user setup. This is things like preferences, so different default values for the requisition. We can change password, register a mobile device. We can also assign delegates for our user. There are some JDE inquiry screens here, such as looking at POs or suppliers. We have this requisition menu, which is where the bulk of this EASYBuyer application will take place. So this is things like creating a requisition, searching for existing requisitions, receiving POs, and also going to a PUNCHOUT catalog. There's some reporting tools here, and then there's also this procurement menu for procurement users where you can define approval routes. So I'll click here first so you can get an idea of how this works. In this template app, approval routes are going to be based on the cost center selected in the header of the requisition. So we have one set up here, this M30 cost center. And if I scroll down, you can see these are the approvers that are set up for this cost center, the currency and the limit of authority, or the LOA. So we have 3 approvers set up at 100, 2,000, 2,500. So this is the approver routing that these requisitions are going to follow. Yeah, and this is just how the template application is set up. These approver routes could be defined in any way that you need, whether it's some approver routes already set up in JDE. We also have clients that are uploading from an Excel document every day with different approver routings. And it doesn't have to be based on cost center either. It could be based on supplier or any other field. And we can also do approvals not at the header level, but let's say the line level. We can do that as well. So that being said, I'm going to log out of Vanessa, and I'll log in as Marion Johnston, who is a requester. And you can see a similar menu, but they don't have that procurement menu. So I'm going to go to create requisition. So you can, so once I click on create requisition, it opens up this form here where we can fill out some header information on the requisition. So we'll type in some comments here. Some of this information is already filled out. Some of this information is coming from this preferences page that I showed before. So if I open this in a new tab and just show you, we have some preferences set up for this user. So like default account code, branch plant, cost center, and so on. So this is all pre-filled out on the requisition itself. So a lot of these fields have lookups associated with them too, which is real-time JDE lookups. So if we go to the supplier, we have a list of suppliers from JDE. We can add some keywords here, and it'll search for those suppliers as well. And we can select from here, and it'll automatically fill out this box here. Yeah, under currency, we have domestic currency, which is based on company code, but we also have the transaction currency, which we can update as well. Once again, from a JDE lookup here, it gives us the exchange rate coming from JDE as well using a business function. So if we change that back, should be 1. Yep, so USD to USD. We have shipping here, which is freight handling code is coming from UDC values. We also have more lookups for carrier code, delivery instructions. The PO, we have print message, which is also coming from UDC. Payment terms, once again a JDE lookup, real time. And then we also have tax, which a similar idea is UDCs and a lookup here. So once we're done filling out all this information, we can save the header. And that will save the requisition here and opens up these 2 new sections here, which is attachments and items and services. So we can upload some attachments, which will go along with the requisition here. So I can add a couple of, let's say, PDF files here. It'll upload them. And then we can start adding items. So we can add an item here. We can define the description. We can select a line type of J or non-stock or stock. We can also start filling out quantity, unit price, and so on. Down here we have branch, plant, and account number. So account number is going to be a lookup as well. The business unit is defaulted from the cost center on the header. If we search, we can search for different account numbers. We'll select this account and add the item. And then, if we scroll down, we'll see that item has been added to the request, along with those attachments that I uploaded earlier, which we can download or delete from here. I'll add one more item here. This one, we can make a service, add a description. If we check the service box, then we can just type in a total price here. And then once again, I'm just going to select that same account number and add that. And then down here, we have our second item as well. So once everything looks good, we can see at the very bottom the total price. These actions correspond to the actions that are defined, like I said, in this actions and conditions box here. We can save, submit, withdraw. So that's what we see at the bottom of the page. We can also see a history of the requisition as well. So we can see that the requisition was initiated by Marion Johnston, who is the user that I'm logged in as, and it's at the composing status. So we can do a couple things here. We can save it, which will save the requisition for later. And then we can submit as well. So I'll submit, and this will take it to the budget approval status. And we can see it's assigned to this user, Ignacio Haynes. So if we click OK here, this will bring us out of the requisition that we're editing and into the requisition search. Yep. So this is the requisition search. So this is that other item underneath the requisition menu, this requisition search. There's some filtering up top here. We have submitted by me, checked by default. So this will show all the requisitions that have been submitted by my user. And you can see the workflow history for all of these requisitions as well. So you can see date timestamps, who did what. If I hover over this budget approval, we can see the owner of the status. So this is Ignacio Haynes, who's responsible for approving or rejecting this requisition. Let me log out of Marion Johnston, and as Ignacio, we would have gotten this email that this requisition is assigned to me. So it just has some basic information here. So we can click here to review and approve, and this will take us right into the requisition. So log in as Ignacio. And then we essentially see the same form that we saw before. But in this case, it's read only because we're just an approver. So I can't edit any of this information, but I can review everything. I can download attachments, view the line level. But down to the bottom, I can add some comment here. So let's say looks good, and then I can approve. And then based on that approval routing, since this is above Ignacio Haynes' approval or limit of authority, it will go to the next level of approval, which is the Cecilia Watts. So I can log out. Cecilia would have gotten a similar email as the previous one. But we can also just log straight into the portal and navigate to the requisition search. And you'll see this this radio button that by default is assigned to me. So we can see all the requests assigned to Cecilia right now. We can see that one that I just submitted here. And if I click on this red status, it'll bring me into the requisition. Same thing, it's going to be all read only because I'm just an approver. But scrolling down to the bottom, I can approve. And after this, based on the approval routing, it is fully approved. So we can see it's assigned to the role procurement at post-approval edit. So once again, we can log out of Cecilia. And we would have gotten this email at post-approval edit. One thing I didn't show was in the workflow, the actors for this post-approval edit is the procurement group. So anyone with the procurement authorization will get this email. In this case, we have two users, Anita Nash and Vanessa Hudson. So both of them would have gotten an identical email. So we can click on the link, log in as one of these users. And like I said before, the procurement user will get the final say before this actually gets put into JDE as a purchase order. So they will be able to edit any of the fields here that they need to. They'll be able to add or remove attachments, add, remove items, anything they need to do. And then we can approve. And so now it's sitting at the JDE status. So I can log out here and I'll log in as Mary Johnston once again. I go to the requisition search. So it's sitting at the JDE status. Like I said before, this is the dark blue status. So this is going to run on a batch. Once this batch picks up our request that we just put through and submits it to JDE, which it looks like it just did, it'll send out this email to the original requester that the request has been converted into a purchase order. And we'll also get a purchase order number back, the 730. So let me pull that up in JDE here. Go to P4310. Yep, and you can see that purchase order has been created in JDE with the fields that we filled out. We can see the ordered by is Marion Johnston. Going down to the detail revision, we can see those couple of items that we added, and the account number that we selected and so on. So everything looks good here. For the next example, I wanted to show a stock item. So here's what I'll do. I'll create a new requisition here. We'll keep everything else the same. We'll save the header. And then we'll go ahead and add an item here. So what I didn't do last time was change this J to an S. And when I do that, it adds a lookup for the item number. So this will look up an item based on the supplier that's selected in the header. So if just doing a blind search here, we get all of the items for the 4319 supplier that we have selected. So I can choose one of these, brings in the description automatically for us. So we can define the quantity, the unit price. We could also take this unit price from JDE if needed. Calculates the total price. We can put it towards that same account and then add the item. Okay. Yeah. So this is an example of just a stock line item being added to a request. We can submit, and this will follow that same approval routing since I have the same cost center selected here. So this will look pretty similar to what you just saw. So I'll go ahead and log out of Marion Johnson. We'll log in as Ignacio here and get this request fulfilled as well. So once again, it's going to be all read only. We'll go ahead and approve. Yep, it's over Ignacio Haynes, limit of authority. So it's going to go to Cecilia. Yep. So same email sent out to Cecilia. Yep, we'll go ahead and approve. Then it goes to procurement. So once again, we'll view that email. Click here to review. Log in as Vanessa. And approve to send to JDE. So that one will also get created in JDE momentarily. So I'm logged in as Marion Johnston. And under the requisition menu, there's a punch out catalog button. And here's where there'd be a collection of catalogs that you have in your system. I'm going to show the Amazon punch out. So I'll click on that. Pressing this button sends the cXML request to Amazon. They send us back a URL to forward the user to. And now we are in the punch out catalog for Amazon. You can see, we have our name down here. We have the application it's associated with. And so in here, it's pretty much just an Amazon catalog. So we can go in and add some items to our cart. So let's see. So yeah, so I'll add some sticky notes. We'll go down here. Order some Sharpies as well. Let's see if I can change the quantity here to give some. So we'll do 5 of these. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it kind of calculates the pricing in between there, depending on the quantity. And I believe it tries to find the best price, or Amazon does. So after we have everything in our cart, I press proceed to checkout. And here we can select our shipping address. These can be managed through the Amazon business settings, but they can also be chosen by the user here. You can add new addresses. So I'll just select this. And then we can choose our shipping options. And then we can select our payment methods. So this one right here is provided by the organization. So this is also managed by business settings. You can have them type in their own cards, or you can have organization-wide cards as well. Which are defined. This is the Amazon business dashboard here. So we could add them by going to payment methods. Oh, I think it's going to have me sign in again. Yeah, so here's manage payment methods. You can see that payment method right here. Okay, and so we'll select that, and then it'll say this order requires approval, which just means this will have to go through our procurement system. Otherwise, in other words, EASYBuyer, to be able to finalize this order. So I'll click submit order for approval. This sends the response back to EASYBuyer, and EASYBuyer will process that request, take all the parameters and put it into an EASYBuyer requisition. So up here, we have some header information, some coming from Amazon, some not. We have an Amazon PUNCHOUT request. And if we scroll down, we can see all of the items that were added to this request. So the Sharpies and the sticky notes. Yeah, so if we did have to add like, let's say payment terms or tax area, something JDE specific that we need to add here, we can just go to this lookup. And this is just querying the JDE tables to pull these in. So, we could select that, and that comes in that box over there. Yeah, after that's all filled out, we can go ahead and submit the request. And we can see it's assigned to this next user, Ignacio Haynes, who was the first level approver. This request is under $100, so this is just going to go to Ignacio. So we'll click OK. And I'm going to go ahead and log out of this Marion Johnson user here. And we would have gotten this email notification as an approver. So this was sent to user Ignacio Haynes. It was an Amazon PUNCHOUT request, and we can click here to review and approve. And so if I click here, this should take us directly into the portal. I'll sign in. I'll sign in as the approver. Yeah, we could embed the username password into the email. And in that case, yeah, like you said, it would auto sign the user in. Yep, so the approvers will get a read-only version of this form. So they can't change anything here. They'll see all of the items. We can add a comment here, say it looks good, and then we'll approve. Yeah, like you saw, that pop-up said that it went to procurement, which means that we are past the budget approval step. It's fully approved. So we just needed to do one final pass. We just need the buyers to do one final pass and send it to JDE. So once again, I can log in as our procurement user. So Vanessa Hudson. And this will also give you an idea of what it would look like if the user, either approver or procurement came in and we need to find a request. We can use this requisition search. Yeah, and that'll pull up all of the requests that have been made in the system. So I have this checkbox or this radio button checked automatically. So this is all the requests assigned to me. And so we can see this Amazon PUNCHOUT request here, and we can see timestamps, duration, who did the actions. We can see comments from approvers, and then it's at this post-approval edit status. So if I click here, it's taking me back into the request. And since I'm a procurement user, this is another example of role-based changes on the pages because these fields aren't read-only in this case. And so I can go in and change whatever I need to. But if it all looks good, I can just approve this, and this will send it to JDE. So it's been executed. And now it's sitting at this JDE status. And like I said, it's automatic, runs every minute. And then once that requisition is processed, we should get an email as the requester that there's been a new PO created in JDE. And so I'll log out of Vanessa, and we'll go ahead and log in as our requester user while we're waiting for that to process. Let's see if I can get that page to open. Yeah, so purchasing system. Yeah, just it looks like a test order was placed here. So yeah, so this is, yeah, looks like the markers and the post-it notes. So it did eventually place the order. And then if we search for purchase orders here, we should be able to see purchase orders from EASYBuyer. And this is just a a page that Amazon gives you to track purchase orders. So yeah, we can see, once they're all finally approved and Amazon gets that request to order, they'll go ahead and order those purchase orders linked to the PO number in JDE. So this is 946. Yeah, so we can see Sharpies and sticky notes here. But the last thing I do want to show is the final part of the process, which is the original requester receiving the goods and logging them as received. So you might have seen I got these emails here once the PO was created that the requisitions are at the waiting for receipt status. So going to the requisition search here. And we'll take our non-stock example here. It's sitting at waiting for receipt. It's assigned to me. If I click here, we'll see that the PO must be at a receivable status before it can be received. So this is essentially saying that in JDE, and yeah, we'll take our 730 example here. We're just waiting for it to enter a receivable status. So I'll update it to 370, which is going to allow it to be received here. So if I refresh this page, we'll see that button enabled, the receive PO button. So this order can be received. And on the screen, we can do a few things here. We can check which lines we want to receive. And then over to the right, we can select the quantity or amount that we're going to receive. So if we only want to receive a partial quantity, we can do that, or a partial amount, we can do that. We also have the option to close the remainder of the PO as well. If we only want to receive part of it and then close the rest. We can also receive part of it and receive the rest later. But let's say we want to fully receive these two items. So we just type in the quantity or amounts that we're receiving, and then we'll receive the PO. And then the receipt is created JDE. We get a document number back. And then once we click OK, it goes back to the receive PO screen. We don't have anything else to receive there, so that's fine. But if we go to the requisition search, just so you can see the completed example, that webinar test non-stock requisition that we created is no longer in the assigned to me category. So if we go to completed requests, that's where we can see it. And here's where we can see the entire workflow diagram of what happened here, who approved, JDE, the JDE details, and who did the receipt before the request was terminated. And yeah, so that's a full cycle of the EASYBuyer app here.
Then we actually have a question, if you don't mind taking it.
Sure.
Are you able to edit an approved order should your supplier acknowledge your order with different price or delivery?
Yes, yeah. So that will take place in this same process. So yeah, so when it's sitting at waiting for receipt, you'll have the option to edit the information that's on that PO, and then it'll go through the same, in this system at least, it'll go through that same level of approval where we edit the information, quantity, unit price, whatever we need to edit. It'll go back for approval, and then it'll submit that to JDE as an edit to the order. And then, following the order activity rules, it'll go to whatever status it needs to in JDE with those revisions made.
How exactly do you integrate against JDE account codes?
And I'll step in with that. Ben showed like lookups, and he did mention those lookups, which work like JD Edwards at the field level, are reflected real time. And that's the same thing with account codes. You can do a compound search, based on branch, plant, business unit, keywords like expense, repair, and find account codes. But it is real time, and that's an important question. Our very first project with EASYBuyer was Windstream Communications, and that goes back about 14 years ago. It was early in our life as a company. And we did replace Ariba there. With Ariba, they were downloading the account codes, and they mentioned having hundreds of thousands of account codes, and the maintenance with that was just too much. They wanted the real-time integration, and that's how we work. As a matter of fact, Ben, I know that you focused the demo scenarios, on transactions. Can you bring up the menu and kind of review the menu inquiries, and even touch on where is it with a mobile, like register device, touch on that. But first I'll review the inquire, and maybe then a few of the other menus that the folks might be interested in.
Sure. Yeah. So inquiries are pretty standard here. So things like we can search on POs, suppliers, account codes, receipt search. So if we go to like account codes, you'll see it lists out the account codes, the business units associated, and some descriptions of these elements here. Going into like PO search, we can search by PO number here, and so on. It'll give us some details on any of these PO numbers, the vendor numbers associated, and so on. And things like supplier lookup, account code lookup, and so on. These are going to be part of the we saw those lookups next to the fields on the requisition. These are going to be essentially the same lookups but more detailed. So things like address number, supplier name, then you get the full address as well. So that's where these inquiry screens kind of come into play here. Receipt search as well. I mentioned the register device. So as Doug mentioned, we have that app there. This is how you would link the app to this is how you would link the mobile app to this application here, this EASYBuy application, and your user. So what you would do is just download the app, scan this QR code, and then you would be ready to use this app on your phone. You'd be able to take advantage of all of the mobile capabilities like scanning and and using the camera to upload attachments, things like that.
And we've got one more question. Can orders be attached to project numbers and project budgets?
So any fields that need to be added to the requisition to make that possible, we can do. Essentially anything that you can attach to the requisition, or sorry, the purchase order in JDE, we can make possible in this system as well. So if there's a field that would hold, let's say, the project number or project budget, we can put that in there as well. Anything to link those to the purchase order, we can do. If they're custom fields, we can link them in our system as well. But yeah, I hope that answers the
And
question.
Ben, I know that we're focused on our non-production demo environment, and I just wanted to mention that we do work with many global supplier or global companies, and they use it in a global fashion, both from language and currency. Exilia Pharma, which is a Copenhagen-based company, uses it extensively, and you might just want to touch on that, say, Exilia as a use case, and how they use the application worldwide.
Okay, so Exilia is one of the clients that uses the Excel upload for the approval routing. So that's kind of one of their one of the customizations that they've made is being able to upload the Excel daily. They do it automatically on a scheduler from another system. So we just pick that up and upload those approval routes. They also do it for their default values and things like that as well. But yeah,
And
they do have
their requisitions are centric to cost units, right?
Yeah, so they opted to the same as our test system here, link them to the cost centers, but they also do cost center approval at the line level. So different lines might require different levels of approval, so it'll go to different approvers that way.
And we do
Kelly?
have one more question. Yes. Is this a true cloud SaaS solution?
Yes, I mentioned earlier that we deploy and we support any public or private cloud. We strongly recommend using our AWS contract. And the reason for that, as a matter of fact, Ben, you're still showing, is to be able to do the updates. One characteristic of a SaaS application is to do seamless updates. The other is security controls. When I talked about SOC 2 Type 2, you know, the fact that we're working from various AWS regions in the state here. We utilize the Oregon data center, what AWS calls their region, and Ohio East. We're deployed in Sydney for our Australian customers, Paris, France for our European and Middle East and South Africa customers. So we are truly a cloud package or a cloud platform, a SaaS platform. And Ben, what's really important though that characterizes SaaS is the seamless updates. I don't know if maybe you can go to the IDE and show examples of that.
Sure. Yeah. So let's see, what would be a good example here? Let me pull up the IDE here.
There we go. So like the 39 alert notification on the top there, right?
Yep. Yeah. So right. So this is where we kind of give updates to the platform itself. So we're constantly updating services and adding new features to the to Easy Process, or low code development platform. So this is where we send out notifications to developers so they can have an idea of what has changed. We also have links to the forum as well. And this is where we kind of have some detailed explanations of these changes as well.
Good. And once again, strong characteristics of a SaaS cloud platform and the app. So thanks, Ben. Actually, we're finishing a few minutes early. I want to thank everybody for attending. We will follow up with Kelly will be sending out the recording and an email with the slide deck. We strongly encourage anyone attending to contact us. We're a very easy company to work with. We promote what we call a proof of concepts so that you can test our platform and apps before making a commit, any type of contractual or large spend commit. And we'd also like to show you, the value of our apps as it pertains to the other pre-built and custom apps that we've done for our clients. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of the day, and you'll be seeing the follow-up email from Kelly. Bye now.